What is up, rancid, putrid smelling basement dwellers? It's your boy. And I want to start this video off by saying I own hundreds of comic books and manga. And out of literally everything I have read, there are only 5 things that I absolutely hated. And today I will be going over them so that you know not to read them. And I will also be going over my reasons because I feel like one of those choices may be a little bit controversial for people that are into comic books. But yeah, these make me want to go like this. They're really bad. So, to start off, I will go with the most tame one, and that is Ashes, Ashes by Ray McCutney and a couple other guys who I don't even care enough to mention. Now, this is the least bad out of all the things I picked out. Not because the story itself is actually bad. I think the setup and the concept is really cool, and this oversized art really cool to look at too. But this story just ends like almost immediately, and there's like a massive time skip that makes no sense. So I'm gonna spoil everything that happens because I don't suggest you read this. It's not that good. But basically, in the far future, technological advancements are super far ahead. The main character's girlfriend is like a model in one of these big cities, and then one day all the technology goes out, and this one guy fights against a new industrial revolution so that the fall of society doesn't happen again because like a shit ton of people die. But it feels like you're only getting like maybe 10% of the story, because you get whenever all the machines collapse, you get him fighting as an old man, and you get his wife giving a speech at his funeral. Those are the 3 things you get, and that's it. Nothing connecting those things. So you just kind of have to make up your own thing. Like, I don't know if it's just this one that I bought that just like skips around a bunch, or if it was being canceled and you have to wrap the story up or whatever, but this was just not that good. So this is number 5 on all the worst things. Next up is the one I think will be a little controversial, and that's the Action Bible. This is basically a comic book retelling of major Bible stories. And for the 2 of you that don't know me in real life that actually watch my videos, I'm a Christian and I read the Bible every night. And these Bible stories are not a super accurate retelling. And I think that personally annoys me, because these are geared towards children, okay? And if they're not super accurate to the actual Bible stories because you're leaving out certain more mature themes, then just don't include it at all. If you don't think your kid's old enough to hear the real story, then don't kiddie-ize it. Don't make it more childish just so that they can have a childish version of the story. Just don't tell them that Bible story yet. All that this does is it spreads misconceptions about the Bible and certain stories that have wrong details or left out details because it's for a younger audience. And I feel like that is a misrepresentation of what the Bible is, and it shouldn't do that. That's why it's low for me. I hadn't even gotten through the whole thing. I read a third of it and I just couldn't stand it. So I did read through Ashes, Ashes though. Next up, we have Neo Parasite. This is a manga that's kind of like a universe extender to Parasite. I absolutely loved Parasite, but this takes a shit on the whole series. It sucks ass, okay? So, basic premise of what's Parasite's about. Minor spoilers. Aliens come from Earth, and they try to take over humans' brains by burrowing through their skin, and they kind of fall down through the sky by riding the wind. We don't really know what their origins were. And if they fail to develop while they're in the human's brain, then that part of the human's body will become a parasite. If it was my hand, then my hand would be a parasite, and the parasite could let me control my hand, or it could take over my hand and sprout eyes and blades and stuff, but it would need to keep me alive for the parasite to stay alive, because it's a parasite. That's basically what it's about. And this imagine like the most unlikable people you could imagine. This is just a collection of side stories. Every single person that is a main character of these side stories, I absolutely despise. First of all, we have a priest who has a parasite in his back that's having like relations with a young girl. And I'm like, dude, why the fuck would I ever want to read about something like that? Next, we have a super cringy basement dwelling loser girl that ships two boys that are straight to be in a gay relationship. And like one of them is a parasite, so that's how it relates. But it barely has anything to do with the concept, and it just feels like some stupid fanfic that got printed. And that's the only thing I can remember. There are a few more than that, but I just remember really hating it. I'm not rereading it for the purpose of this video because it just makes me annoyed. So, Neoparasite's number 3 of the one I think sucked the most. Next, we have Nichigara Holographed, I think that's what it's called. I'm a big fan of horror manga, and this is horror manga. So I read the first couple of chapters when I was at Barnes & Noble, and I thought, okay, I don't want to read too much to spoil it before I actually buy it. So I bought it, and I brought it home, and this is just a compilation of really fucked up imagery in a barely connected story that has like pretty much no purpose whatsoever. And certain stuff happens to like children in this, and there's this one lady that gets raped and then stabbed to death, and it just feels like a compilation of fucked up shit for no reason. Like, if I'm gonna read horror, I want it to have a story, or I want it to have like a meaning, but nothing in this feels like it has any meaning. It's just non-stop fucked up shit. That's what this is. These are all 1 out of 10s for me, and I would not recommend them to anyone, but this is number 4 on like the ones I hate the most. There are certain parts of this where I couldn't even like show it to you because they would get this video banned off YouTube. It's gross. Next, and this is the one I think personally I was the most disappointed by, because I love this horror manga author. His name is Junji Ito, and I have a lot of collection of his stuff that I may do reviews on at some point in the future, but this particular thing, he did a manga adaptation of No Longer Human. And if you don't know what that is, it is a collection of journals about someone in Japan during World War I or II. I don't really remember which one it was. And it's just basically a recounting of their life. And they went through some pretty fucked up shit. I've read the book because of this, because I wanted to know, like, there's no fucking way this shit actually happens in the book. And long story short, some of the shit doesn't happen in the book, some of it does, but there's just a lot of messed up stuff about this. Like, the main character of the real journals gets molested as a child, and you get to see that in this. I did not ever want to see that. So, yeah, and it doesn't even have a happy ending either. This ends with, like, this guy, he's in a psych ward after a bunch of fucked up shit that happens to him. First of all, he drives, like, 4 people to suicide throughout the book because of his fucked up and selfish actions. And he's in a psych ward by the end of it. He meets up he meets a guy who becomes his friend in the psych ward, and they're both artists. One of them's a writer. He makes paintings, and they kind of have a connection over that. And right when you feel like he's about to turn his life around, some fucked up person that he fucked up through his past ends up coming in and then completely wrecking his entire life. And it just ends in a super unhappy way. And it's just the least satisfying, most disturbing thing I've probably ever read. This is why this is my number 1 least favorite. Now, unlike with everything else, I do think someone could enjoy this because it's an adaptation of one of the most best-selling books in Japan. But me personally, this is just too fucked up for me. Like, certain imagery in this, I just didn't want to see. Certain descriptions about what he was experiencing in the moment, I just didn't want to know. This wasn't super accurate to the book. They added a lot of stuff in there to make it more fucked up than the book. Like, the book was just about a guy who was an alcoholic and then ended up becoming a morphine addict, and how he had like dissociative disorder. That's it. That's what the book was about. This is like that, but 10 times worse. So, No Longer Human's my number one pick for my least favorite thing in my collection. Unlike my other things, I don't think I'll ever get rid of this because it fits really well next to my other Junji Ito stuff, and I want to collect all the Junji Ito stuff because it looks cool together. Plus, this cover looks really cool, but I'll never read this again. Probably never. Anyway, those are my top 5 least favorite things in my collection. Anything else I didn't mention that is in my collection, I liked. These are the only 5 things I did not like. That's about it. See ya.